Have you ever been to the cinema alone? If you haven't, you should try it. It's actually really cool. Anyway, welcome back to the Kino-Log. I'm your host, Cooper, week 7 of 2026. We're halfway, kind of into February. Halfway into February, it is a short month after all. So this one, there was some diversity this week, I would say. It's been I did good this one. There will be some interesting discussions here, I think. There's some new stuff here too. So first of all, starting with, on Tuesday, I watched Hitman. And I gotta watch more Richard Linklater's stuff, honestly. Specifically the Before trilogy. Have to say, this is something I've not seen yet. Part of the reason is because whenever anything is being essentially distributed by Criterion, that means there is a very hefty price tag on those films, which makes it very difficult to just buy them without, especially when it's something you haven't seen before. The commitment of buying a Criterion release is not a very easy proposition to make. But anyway, Hitman is a Netflix film. I was actually considering going to the London Film Festival premiere of this, but I didn't, and it's fine. So anyway, the synopsis of actually kind of based on a true story apparently. Synopsis: a professor moonlights as an undercover cop. Adopting a hitman persona, ends up falling for a potential client, a woman hiring a hitman to murder her abusive husband. And yeah, it's, in the beginning, it's, for me, it was very interesting because I thought the film was going into an interesting direction with the whole aspect of Glenn Powell's character adopting different personas for different clients, and I really liked where it was going in for a while there. I thought this might be the film that finally makes me like Glenn Powell, beyond just thinking, he's okay. But no, it's towards the end, it becomes very boring in terms of becoming more of a romantic comedy with thriller elements, where so many films I think exist within that category, and this one doesn't do it any better. There is some really good chemistry between Glenn Powell and the main actress, who I just do not, I don't remember her name. It goes into the usual tropes of juggling the double life, and somebody inevitably finds out and they have to find a way to work around that. And yeah, before until that point I was enjoying where it was going, but still worth a watch, I would say. Probably would have been cool to see that in the cinema. Anyway, and better than the next one we have on the list, actually, which was on Wednesday, Crime 101. And you know what? They call it 101 because 1 plus 0.5 plus 1 equals 2.5 out of 5 stars. It's mid. It's really mid. So, synopsis: a meticulous thief, a disillusioned insurance broker, and an obsessed detective cross paths because of a high-stakes heist, all with conflicting interests. Naturally, because, you know, a thief and a detective can only have opposite interests in this story, and it's very clearly inspired by Heat, but it doesn't have anything that makes Heat special. The only aspect from Heat that it replicates best is the runtime, but it doesn't do anything interesting enough to justify that runtime. So if anything, they should have just called this film chill, because it's like Heat, but it's not good. So you get it, huh? But yeah, it does look great on occasion, I'll be honest. So there's clearly passion involved. They really thought they were making something great. There's just, I don't think the story had enough grounding there to make it interesting enough. There is no drama the way there is in Heat, especially like where Heat goes so well is the tension between Al Pacino and De Niro, where you get a look into both of those characters and their lives and understand them as people, and the way you kind of, in a sense, see overlaps between the two of them, which is why they would almost, in that scene where the two of them talk and they see each other almost as like good friends, but they know they can never be friends because of their different paths in life. Whereas this, it just doesn't have any of that. And without me going deeply into spoilers, maybe part of the reason they kind of tried to do this, like all of the three characters don't have much in common in my opinion. They're just all, which is not that they should, but if you're gonna have three different characters, all will have their own character arcs that are just not particularly engaging, partially because you cannot have such a big cast with runtime like this, which is lengthy, but not lengthy enough to where you can make something meaningfully interesting with three different storylines, to where all of them essentially end up feeling a little bit half-baked. So yeah, there is no cool set pieces. For a crime film, you would assume there might be some set pieces, especially being set in LA, but there are a few car chases, and the OST can shine on occasion, but misused on such a film, I would say it's not exciting enough to justify something like that. So, Chris Hemsworth is okay in that. Out of all the three Chris's, Chris Hemsworth is by far the coolest Chris, just because he's in Furiosa. So, just that alone. On that alone, he wins any day of the week. And I finally got to watch Marty Supreme. That was on a Thursday, the 12th of February. I was really late to the party, partially because they rolled it out in the UK very late. Synopsis: Marty Supreme is a man with a dream of unrealistic proportion that is willing to do anything to achieve it. And that about like sums it up. Of course, there is a lot of stuff that happens in the film. It has that intensity of a Safdie film, because this was directed by, Josh Safdie. So it was directed by Josh Safdie. So now we know is actually Josh that was mostly responsible for the intensity that so many praise, or the fact that the intensity that Uncut Gems and Good Times became really known for. But those films had a layer to them that Marty Supreme doesn't, because as engaging and dynamic as the other ones are, it feels a little bit, it felt in service of a story, because they're not stories about like somebody persevering and winning. You know, they're full stories of essentially of like a downfall of like these people, and it almost feels like the sum of the choices that these people have made throughout their life, throughout the story, coming back to get them. Whereas in Marty Supreme, it actually ends up as a celebration. It ends up as a feel-good American dream story, and that style of a story to me feels at odds with the ending of it, where it just becomes, in my opinion, very deflated. And look, I think it was just been a more interesting story if it would have been a story of a downfall of a man who drowns in the vast ocean of his own ego. I think that would have been a pretty interesting watch, but that's not where it ultimately ends up going. It just feels like one big set piece of a film that is ultimately in service of a empty story. So, you know, Timmy gives it his all as Marty Supreme, I've not followed the promotional press junket for the film. As far as I understand, there's quite a lot of momentum behind it, a lot of dreams of this being his Oscar win. And look, it is a big performance, but is it a good performance? I don't think I'm in a position to answer that. This is that argument where some people make whether most acting versus actually good acting, because there is a lot of acting there just because it's a very big persona that gives Timmy a lot of opportunity to act big and have such a loud and big character. But is it genuinely a good performance? He does a good job at it, but I wouldn't say that it is particularly interesting.